Breaking news is blowing up online. A leaked recording allegedly from a private club in the US has resurfaced, and it's reigniting a creepy suspicion about Meghan Markle's past. In the off-script audio, a voice rumored to be Prince Andrew casually drops nicknames like Meg and Soho, then tosses out a few half-joking, half-poisoned lines that'll make your skin crawl. Days later, Harry and the kids are said to vanish. No trace, and before anyone can catch up, Ghislaine Maxwell from inside prison suddenly speaks, dragging Meghan Andrew and the steamy link to Marcus Anderson, Soho's membership director, straight into the spotlight. Still not done, an anonymous Royal Lodge staffer claims there was a secret negotiation in a garden in summer 2016. Then Marcus lands the finisher. He drops medical documents hinting Meghan had a secret pregnancy tied to him, supposedly enough to make every denial laughable. And Meghan's response? Dirty counterplay. She swerves the narrative with gender rumors and same-sex insinuations, yet can't give a clean answer about that alleged 2015 pregnancy. If this is only what Marcus dares to release to force the other side's move, how far does the stuff he's still sitting on take this? Stay tuned before every trace is wiped clean. In the elite world, where dim lighting hides expensive sins and silence is bought with champagne, the most dangerous weapon has always been a conversation people think no one is listening to. It was one of those private American clubs where power drips off the walls and secrets travel faster than drinks. Jazz murmured softly, designed to blur words, to soften memories. But that night, it wasn't enough. Prince Andrew stood near the bar, scotch in hand, wearing the shell of royal confidence long stripped of its shine. His eyes scanned the room like someone who had ruled these spaces once and still believed he belonged. Then Marcus Anderson approached. Smooth, polished, that practiced smile of a man who knows every door and every weakness behind it. These two had shared too many rooms, too many nights, too many secrets to pretend they were strangers. At first it was harmless chatter, society talk, network pleasantries. Then the alcohol loosened something darker. Andrew smirked, voice dropping, dripping with implication. He mentioned old connections, a woman who climbed, a name that used to be whispered, not crowned. Marcus laughed, not surprised, more amused than shocked. He talked about ambition, about knowing where to sit, who to sit beside, how every inch of space could change a life. Then the nickname surfaced. Meg, not Meghan, not Duchess, Meg. Andrew swirled his glass, ice clicking like punctuation marks on a confession. Marcus confirmed it. Soho House. The warmth of familiarity. The kind of closeness that opens doors without knocking. They laughed. They mocked. They rewrote history like it was a joke. What they didn't notice was the phone nearby. Silent, recording, capturing fragments that were never meant to survive the night. Words like smoke drifting away, never meant to return. But they did. Days later, the audio leaked. The internet detonated. Headlines screamed. Social media spun itself into a frenzy. Prince Andrew, Marcus Anderson, Meghan Markle, Soho House. Old names dragged into harsh new light, and then something even stranger happened. Harry vanished, along with the children. No sightings, no statements, just absence. And absence in this world screams louder than denial. While the public chased theories, a package moved quietly through Los Angeles, delivered to a luxury hotel. Plain brown, no return address. Harry hesitated before opening it, instincts buzzing. Inside was a worn diary, leather cracked from years of being handled. It claimed to belong to a former yacht crew member from elite trips years ago. Pages filled with rushed handwriting, mentions of all-night parties, of boundaries dissolving at sea, of a woman always beside Andrew, Meghan, or Meg. Then came the USB, photos, dates, repetition, Soho House events, Meghan and Marcus. Too close, too familiar, a hand on a waist, a look that lingered too long. Harry stared at the screen as reality rearranged itself. Marcus wasn't just a friend, the timeline didn't lie. He didn't argue, he didn't confront, he packed. He took the children. He left a message that said everything without explaining anything. I need time. And just like that, the disappearance became a statement. Then another voice entered the chaos. From behind prison walls, Ghislaine Maxwell, speaking through an intermediary, calm, precise, devastating. She described 2012, New York, parties where opportunity was currency. Meghan was ambitious, hungry, introduced through networks that didn't operate on resumes. Andrew was the door. Soho House was the hallway. Marcus was the staircase. She painted it clinically, not romance, transaction, movement, advancement. When Andrew faded, Marcus rose. When Marcus served his purpose, Harry appeared. The pattern was cold, efficient, and terrifyingly consistent. Then came the anonymous staffer. Royal Lodge, summer 2016. A garden that looked peaceful but wasn't. Meghan and Andrew alone. Voices low, words sharp. Concerns about Marcus, about photos, about what could destroy everything. Not pleading, warning. Andrew listened. He understood. Days later, he met Marcus. The deal was simple. Silence for survival. Doors stay open. Speak, and they close forever. Marcus agreed, for years, until he didn't. When Meghan's PR machine turned on him, twisting his identity, mocking his existence, erasing him entirely, something snapped. The silence deal died the moment she tried to rewrite him out of her story. Marcus didn't shout, he didn't rant, he released one thing: a medical record. Late 2015. Private clinic. Meghan Markle's name. Marcus Anderson listed as emergency contact. Dates lining up with her disappearance. A pregnancy handled quietly. No follow-up, no explanation. Paper doesn't scream, it doesn't need to. The world froze. Meghan said nothing. No lawsuit, no denial, no statement. Silence stretched and stretched and stretched. Fans who once defended her felt betrayed. Questions multiplied. Harry stayed gone. The mansion stood quiet. Screens flickered with headlines while no voice rose to counter them. Silence became its own confession. And in this world where every image is curated and every word rehearsed, the absence of a response may be the loudest truth of all. What happens next depends on what else is still locked away, and whether anyone decides silence is no longer worth the cost. The silence didn't just linger, it rotted the air. Every hour that passed without a statement turned into another crack in the image Meghan had spent years polishing. The woman who once spoke endlessly about truth, about reclaiming her voice, about refusing to be silenced, had suddenly gone mute. And that contradiction alone was enough to send royal watchers spiraling. Because silence, when you've built your brand on speaking out, feels deliberate, calculated, or desperate. Behind closed doors, the Montecito mansion no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a stage after the curtain had fallen. Props still standing, but the illusion shattered. Screens glowed late into the night, looping debates, slow-motion replays of timelines, experts circling dates like vultures. November 2015, Toronto, weeks missing from public view. A pregnancy rumor that had once sounded ridiculous now sat backed by ink, signatures, and institutional stamps. Her PR team, those same crisis magicians who once turned accusations into empowerment narratives, reportedly clashed behind the scenes. Lawsuit or silence, denial or distraction. Each option carried risk because suing Marcus meant opening discovery, and discovery meant questions. Questions no one could control. Meanwhile, Marcus Anderson remained invisible. No interviews, no statements beyond that single icy line. But his calm, unsettled people more than rage ever could. He didn't need to say more. He had already said enough, and the scariest part wasn't what he released, it was what he hadn't. Royal insiders whispered that Harry had seen more than the public ever would, that the package was only one piece of a much larger puzzle delivered quietly, methodically, like a chess game already halfway played. Friends noticed the shift in him long before the headlines exploded. Less reactive, more withdrawn, protective in a way that felt final. Those nights in Los Angeles were reportedly heavy. Harry pacing hotel corridors while the children slept, scrolling through photos that now read differently, replaying conversations, rehearing reassurances that suddenly sounded rehearsed. Trust doesn't usually shatter loudly. It collapses inward, leaving silence where certainty used to live. Back in Britain, palace watchers couldn't ignore the timing. Prince Andrew, already radioactive, was once again dragged into a storm that smelled eerily familiar. Soho, private clubs, old friends, old favors, and once again, a woman's ambition was being discussed in rooms where accountability rarely lands evenly. The anonymous Royal Lodge staffer vanished from online spaces shortly after posting. No follow-ups, no clarifications, just gone. Some said pressure, others said fear, but those who had read the account couldn't unsee it. The garden, the negotiation, the subtle threat disguised as concern. It fit too cleanly into everything else. Social media fractured into camps. Those still defending Meghan clung to the idea of forgery, conspiracy, misogyny. Those who felt duped leaned hard into betrayal. And the undecided, the most dangerous group, simply waited. Waiting for her to speak, waiting for Harry to return, waiting for something solid enough to land on. But nothing came. Not from Meghan, not from Harry. And that vacuum became unbearable. Commentators began asking the question no one wanted to say out loud. If this wasn't true, why not deny it? Why not fight? Why let Marcus control the narrative? In this world, people with nothing to hide usually shout. People with everything to lose often whisper or disappear. As days turned into weeks, the fairy tale cracked beyond repair. The image of the outsider duchess who married for love and rejected calculation started to dissolve into something far less romantic, something colder, strategic, human maybe, but ruthless. And now, the story hangs in an unresolved space. Marcus has more. That much is clear. Harry is still gone. Meghan is still silent. And the public, once willing to believe anything dressed as empowerment, is no longer listening the same way. Because once doubt settles in, no amount of curated perfection can fully erase it. And in the end, the most dangerous secrets aren't the ones screamed across headlines. They're the ones everyone's senses are still buried, waiting for the moment someone decides silence is no longer worth protecting. The waiting became unbearable. Every passing hour without a response tightened the knot around the story, pulling it closer to something irreversible. Even longtime supporters began admitting, quietly at first, that this wasn't how innocent people usually behaved. Meghan had never been shy before. She had fought back against headlines, lawsuits, royal traditions, even an entire institution. And now, faced with one of the most personal allegations of all, she chose to say nothing at all. That contrast alone gnawed at people's faith. Inside the Montecito mansion, staff noticed the shift. Fewer meetings, phones ringing unanswered, attention that seeped into every room like damp air. The house looked the same from the outside, manicured and sunlit, but inside it felt frozen in time, like everyone was waiting for a single decision that refused to come. Speak and risk everything. Stay silent and let the story write itself. Across the ocean, royal circles whispered that this silence was already being interpreted as an answer. Not confirmation, not denial, but something more dangerous. Acceptance. The kind that comes when fighting back would only expose more than you can afford to lose. The kind that suggests the past is too messy to drag into daylight again. Marcus, meanwhile, stayed completely out of sight. No smug victory lap, no dramatic follow-up. That restraint made his move feel even more lethal. He didn't need attention, he had leverage, and everyone knew that men who keep quiet after dropping something explosive usually do so because they're holding something far worse. Harry remained invisible, shielded behind security and closed doors, focused only on his children. Friends hinted he felt numb rather than angry. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrives with clarity, stripping away the version of a person you thought you knew and replacing it with someone unrecognizable. And so the story hangs there, suspended. A marriage paused, a reputation bleeding out slowly, a past that refuses to stay buried. In this world, silence can be strategic, but it can also be surrender. And if this really is the calm before the storm, the question isn't whether more will come out. It's who decides to speak first, and how devastating that next truth will be.